So today is July 6th, 2026 as I'm recording this, and Xbox just dropped the most significant restructure in the company's history. 3,200 jobs gone over the next 12 months, 1,600 of those happening today for studios, Double Fine, Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, and Undead Labs, all leaving the building. Asha Sharma, the CEO, sent a letter to every employee this morning that opened with the words, "Our business today is not healthy." Now look, if you want the full breakdown of what was announced today, Luke Stevens covered that in detail on his channel. I'll put the link in the description, and I genuinely recommend watching it. What I do want to do in this video is go a layer deeper, because there are some things sitting underneath today's news that almost nobody is talking about. And honestly, they change how you should feel about all of this, because the surface story is Xbox having a rough day. The real story is a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting than that. Let's get into it. Let's start with the elephant in the room that everyone is dancing around. In October 2023, Microsoft paid $68.7 billion, nearly $70 billion, to acquire Activision Blizzard and King. It was the largest acquisition in the history of the games industry by a significant margin. The whole pitch was that Call of Duty, Warcraft, Candy Crush, and the rest of the Activision portfolio would supercharge Game Pass, bringing in new players, and finally give Xbox the kind of content firepower it needed to compete seriously with PlayStation. That was the plan, but here's what actually happened. Microsoft put Call of Duty into Game Pass day one with Black Ops 6, and then the data came in. According to the reports from former employees with direct knowledge of the numbers, Xbox gave up more than $300 million in the Call of Duty sales in a single year by making the game available through subscription. That was just Black Ops 6. Then Black Ops 7 arrived in 2025, and research from Newzoo tracked what happened next. And the numbers are absolutely brutal. Call of Duty's revenue dropped across every single platform. PC revenue went down by 64.3% year on year, Xbox went down by 39%, and PlayStation went down by 42.8%. Former Activision CEO Bobby Kotick went public saying Call of Duty sales had collapsed by 60% in 2025 compared to the year before. Now, to be clear, it's not entirely Game Pass's fault. Black Ops 7 had a rough critical reception. It used generative AI in ways players found genuinely offensive, and there was direct competition from Battlefield 6, which had a strong launch. But the pattern is undeniable. Adding Call of Duty to Game Pass cannibalized the very thing that made the Activision acquisition worth doing. By the quarter ending March 2026, Microsoft's gaming revenue was down $380 million year on year. Xbox hardware revenue had fallen 33%, and holiday console revenues hit a 12-year low in 2025. And today, Asha Sharma's letter to employees acknowledges all of this, without quite saying it out loud. When she wrote that Game Pass and the multi-platform strategy created meaningful value but did not grow at the pace we expected, that is corporate language for the thing we bet everything on didn't work. And that is the foundation underneath every single layoff announced today. Now here's the question I haven't seen anyone ask today. We know what Xbox is letting go of: the studios, the middle management layers, the bloated platform teams. But what is Xbox actually keeping? What does Asha think the future of the company is? Because this tells you everything about what she actually believes Xbox is. She answered it in the letter. Mojang and King will now report directly to her. Those two are being elevated above every other studio in the company, placed at the very top of the org chart, sitting right next to Asha herself. Let's think about what this means for a second. Mojang makes Minecraft. 350 million copies sold, the best-selling video game in history. A Minecraft movie made nearly $1 billion at the box office in 2025. The Minecraft marketplace, where creators sell their own content inside the game, generates hundreds of millions annually, with 67% of players actively making purchases. This is not a game anymore. This is a platform with its own economy, its own creator community, its own educational arm, its own merchandise empire. And according to reporting from Variety, Minecraft had actually been used as a funding source for other Xbox studios, meaning the money Minecraft was generating was being siphoned off to subsidize games that weren't making money, and as of today, that stops. Then there's King. Candy Crush alone, not King, just Candy Crush, generated over $1 billion in revenue in 2024. The game has been downloaded over 3.5 billion times. 180 million people play it every single month. It has made over $20 billion in its lifetime. It is one of the 5 highest grossing mobile games of all times, and it is owned by Xbox. Combined, Mojang and King represents the kind of platform skill, recurring revenue, multi-hundred million monthly active player business, Jesus Christ, that was actually very difficult to put together, that Xbox and other studios simply cannot compete with on a balance sheet. So here's the honest reframe of today's news. This isn't really a story about Xbox getting smaller. It's a story about Xbox finally being honest about what it actually is. Underneath all that noise about console market share and exclusives and hardware comparisons with PlayStation, Microsoft has quietly been sitting on 2 of the most profitable and widely played gaming platforms on earth. And for years, these platforms were propping up a studio portfolio that was losing 64 cents for every dollar invested. Today, Asha stopped pretending otherwise, and honestly, that clarity, as brutal as it is for the people losing their jobs, is probably the most important thing that happened today. Now, I do want to talk about something that a lot of people are framing as good news, and in some ways it is, but there is another side to it that I think deserves a proper look. Double Fine and Compulsion Games are returning to independent management with their IPs. Compulsion gets to keep contracts. We Happy Few and South of Midnight, Ninja Theory, and Undead Labs are being sold to new owners with funding to finish Senua and State of Decay 3. Luke Stevens went on to cover this earlier in his video, and he did make some good points, because compared to what could have happened, this is the better outcome. Nobody getting shut down outright, the games continuing, and the people behind them getting to keep the work that they built. But here's what I keep coming back to. These are not live service studios, not even close. Compulsion makes beautiful linear narrative single-player games. Double Fine built Psychonauts, one of the most beloved single-player platforms in gaming history. Ninja Theory's whole identity is built on intimate, story-driven experiences like the Hellblade series. These are studios that make games you finish. And right now, in this specific moment in the industry, that is actually a strength. Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Black Myth Wukong, are the biggest critical success stories of the past 18 months, and they are all mid-budget, story-driven single-player experiences from independent or mid-sized studios. The market is telling us something. Players are tired of live service games that never end, that demand daily logins that feel like a job. We talked about this in the live service video, you should check that out, link will be in the description. 52 live service games shut down in 2026 alone, and most of 2025's biggest launches had lost 90% of their players before the year was out. So the studios being let go are actually well positioned for what the market wants right now, which makes it even more complicated. Because the independent games market they're entering into is also the most oversaturated it has ever been. The number of games released each month now outpaces the last 10 years combined. Ash's own letter said that. A mid-budget studio without a platform behind them to guarantee their game gets seen is fighting for attention in a market so crowded it's almost impossible to cut through without either a massive hit or a massive marketing budget. And once the runway Microsoft is providing runs out, and it will run out, these studios will have to survive on what they make. The hope is that being independent again gives them the creative freedom and the leaner cost structure to make great games and have them find their audience. And maybe that's exactly what happens. But going independent in July 2026 is a very different proposition from going independent 5 years ago. And I think that deserves to be said. Now here's the thing that has been sitting at the back of my mind all day and I can't shake it. Today's restructure is all about fixing Xbox right now, cleaning up the balance sheet, cutting the fat, rebuilding the org structure, returning to growth by 2027. All of that makes sense in isolation. But there is a hardware clock ticking in the background that today's letter said almost nothing about, and that's Project Helix, the codename for the next Xbox. Here's what we know. Project Helix is a hybrid console PC powered by a custom AMD chip, designed to play both Xbox games and PC titles from storefronts including Steam and GOG. Developer alpha units are shipping in early 2027. The consumer launch window, based on analyst consensus and AMD CEO Lisa Su's own public comments, is somewhere in the mid to late 2028 range. If the leaked specs hold, we are talking about a genuinely ambitious piece of hardware, up to 48GB of GDDR7 memory, 68 RDNA5 compute units, 110 TOPS neural processing units, a machine that is closer in architecture to a premium PC than any console Microsoft has ever shipped. This could be genuinely incredible, but here's the problem. Early price estimates, calculated before the current memory crisis, were already placing this device north of $1,000. And as we've covered in the AI and gaming video, which you should check out, link will also be in the description, Xbox themselves confirmed in their console price hike announcement that memory and storage costs have risen more than 2.5 times and could double again by fall of 2027. That's right when Microsoft is trying to manufacture Project Helix. So let's put these two things together. Xbox is restructuring today to survive a period where their margins are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable businesses. They are cutting costs, letting studios go, and promising to return to growth by 2027. And then, at some point in 2028, they need to launch a next-generation hybrid console PC in the most expensive component environment in gaming history, at a price point that could realistically be $1,000 or more, in a consumer base that is already stretched thin. We talked about this when we covered the PS5 Pro, link will also be in the description. A $900 console right now is already a tough ask for most people, and that's a current gen mid-cycle upgrade for a system people already own. A brand new next-gen platform launching at over $1,000 from a brand that has just spent 2 years in the news for layoffs and studio closures? Now, I'm not saying Project Helix is going to fail. The open ecosystem angle, running Steam games, playing across console and PC, the 4th-generation backwards compatibility commitment, that is genuinely interesting and potentially a real differentiator against a PS6 that stays closed. If Microsoft can nail the value proposition and pricing, there is a compelling case for this device. But the restructure happening today and the hardware challenge coming in 2027 are not separate stories. They're the same story told 2 years apart. Asha is cleaning house so that Xbox can still be standing when Helix needs to land. And whether that plan works depends on the variables that no one, not Asha, not Microsoft, and not AMD can fully control right now. That is the real question underneath today's announcement, not whether the layoffs were handled well or whether the spin-offs were a good deal, but whether this restructure buys Xbox enough runway to make it to 2028 in a position to actually compete. Now look, today was a hard day for a lot of people. 1,600 jobs gone immediately and more coming in the next year. Studios that talented developers gave years of their lives to are now changing hands or going independent into an uncertain market. That's real and it matters and it deserves to be acknowledged. But underneath all of that, the picture is much more interesting than just Xbox is dying. Microsoft is making a bet. The bet is that Minecraft and Candy Crush and Call of Duty and eventually Project Helix are enough to build something genuinely sustainable. The bet is that cleaning up the balance sheets now gives them the foundation to compete meaningfully in 2028. The bet is that Asha knows what she's doing. And maybe she does. The decisions announced today are the right kind of decisions even if the timing and human costs are brutal. But as we've seen with live service games, with the PS5 Pro, and now with the broader hardware crisis squeezing every company in the space, being right about the strategy is only half the battle. Executing it in a market this turbulent, with this many variables outside your control, is the other half. Xbox has made bigger comebacks from worse positions before. Whether they can do it again remains the most interesting question in gaming right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think this restructure is the beginning of Xbox rebuilding or the beginning of the end? I want to know where you guys stand. As usual, any feedback from you guys would be greatly appreciated. I'll see you in the next one.